Rise and shine, everybody. Thursday edition of Morning Jocks live from the College Football Hall of Fame here in Atlanta, Georgia for one more day. Tomorrow we'll be back. The whole gang will be back there in studio of JOX 94.5 in Birmingham, Alabama. But for one more day, Damian, we are here in Atlanta covering the final day of SEC Media Days. It's a fun time every year, and of course, as we've said plenty of times already this week, it is essentially the official kickoff of the college football season, which gets everybody excited, right? We talked about everyone feels like they have a chance this year. The coaches all feel confident. The players are confident. And it's a good time because, inevitably within the first month of the season, some people's hearts are going to be broken. But at least for right now, everyone feels like they have an opportunity, and I think, for the most part, at least for, the Alabama and Auburn contingent here, which is obviously going to be our focus, I feel like, you've heard a lot of things you probably wanted to hear. The coach is saying a lot of the right things, but obviously the proof is ultimately going to be in the pudding when it comes to the product on the field later this year. But been just a fun week getting to, kind of kick things off, get to hear insight from other people that cover other programs across the Southeastern Conference and kind of get their expectations. It's funny, we have the media ballot thing going around, and, I'm not going to say any names or anything, but, you'll be talking to people of, oh, well, how did you vote this team? Or, hey, I'm kind of confused on, where I'm going to put, let's say Texas A&M. And then you talk to a Texags person. They're like, ooh, yeah, I don't know if I would have them as high as that. Or, ooh, maybe I think that's too low. And it's just kind of interesting getting to pick everyone's brain of what they think of their own programs. And I'll be honest, there are some people here in certain programs where I'm like, wow, I thought you would be much more confident going into the 2025 season. And there are a couple of programs that I think maybe people aren't expecting a ton from this year. And I'm definitely not talking about Texas A&M when I say that. But anyways, we'll keep on moving on from there, Damian, because it is the final day of SEC Media Days. And so quickly, just your schedule for today. You're going to have Missouri, Kentucky, Arkansas, and then A&M. They're going to wrap things up. So first up to the podium today, you're going to have Eli Drinkwitz. He will get going around 8:05 Central Time, same time that Kalen DeBoer was on yesterday. You're going to have Mark Stoops, everyone's favorite. He'll be going at 9:50 Central.
Everybody's what?
Favorite.
Oh,
right?
Sure.
Yeah, well, he's got a lifetime contract, right? You don't get that if...
So he's Kentucky's favorite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
yeah.
He's the chosen. Yeah, he's the prodigal son, right?
He is indeed. It's a football school.
One.
Yeah, Kentucky. Very, very well known for football.
Yeah, so this time next year we'll be talking about, I don't know, who's a popular name. Maybe John Summerall in that slot, something along those lines. Not to put words in his mouth or anything like that. But so Mark Stoops is going to be the second coach going today. He'll be at 9:50 Central. Then at noon you're going to get Sam Pittman from the Arkansas Razorbacks. And then closing things up today is Mike Elko and Texas A&M. So he'll be hitting the podium around 1:45. And all kidding aside, I know we make fun of Texas A&M a lot, but you do have to feel kind of bad for them because by that time everybody's going to be cleared out. I mean, it's already one of those things, and you've been to media days before, Damian, so you know. But once you get to that last day, there's a lot of people that leave before the final day of media days, or maybe they leave early that morning. And so really the final coach or two of the week, typically you just don't really have a whole lot going on, not a whole lot of people sticking around, but who knows, maybe we'll get some interesting stuff there from that group of coaches coming up later today, and I'm sure you'll get to hear at least a few of them on McElroy and Kublick in the morning coming up at 7 o'clock. So have a lot of things to get to with SEC Media Days, Damian, but unfortunately we do have to start, I think, with some breaking news from last night that I'm sure some of you may have missed if you were sleeping. And it is unfortunately not dealing with media days, but it is dealing with the team from the Southeastern Conference, and that would be the Auburn Tigers. So Nathan King from Auburn Undercover, he breaks the story last night about wide receiver Malcolm Simmons. Remember, he was part of that Freeze 5 a year ago with the likes of Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson, and others. Had a pretty strong freshman season, I would say. Got a good number of opportunities, especially later in the year, and somebody that Auburn was really, really excited about going into the year. I know we were. Very excited about his potential as well. But Nathan King reports that he was arrested on Wednesday on charges of domestic assault with strangulation or suffocation, according to records obtained from the Lee County Sheriff's Office. He's currently being held at a $20,000 bond. And Malcolm Simmons now, if you remember, this is now the second incident we've had with Auburn here in the last few weeks after DJ Barber was arrested in Dadeville for marijuana charges. And he also had a firearm in his vehicle at the same time. And if you remember that situation, very sad story, but 24 hours later, he was off the team. And so you just wonder if this situation with Malcolm Simmons, obviously anything involving domestic violence of any sort is absolutely unacceptable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is that, no, we don't put up with that. And if you're Auburn, I can't imagine that they would put up with that. So I guess you let the investigation go. You see what the information reveals, and you make a decision that way. But I have to assume, Damian, that if this comes back and is legitimate as we would expect based on the fact that he was booked in jail last night, I would think that Malcolm Simmons' time as an Auburn Tiger is coming to an end pretty soon.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. This is a terrible look, a terrible situation for all involved. And, I mean, now you're dealing with the real legal process of, football is pretty much in question for him moving forward in anything. This is a terrible situation, and kind of, just, again, it adds to what has been a tumultuous couple of weeks for Auburn now, because you think about it, it's SEC Media Days, and, Hugh Freeze is giving you all this confidence, just the other day there at the podium, and then, to have these things happen in such a short amount of time, it's just an uncomfortable position to be in. But, for Malcolm Simmons, this is awful. Like, this is absolutely terrible, and now you got to let the legal process take over. But, yeah, I agree with you. I think his time as an Auburn Tiger has truly come to an end, and it's a terrible way to go out.
Absolutely, and it's unfortunate because, I mean, we don't need to go into specific examples, but I think we all understand that this has been a problem in professional sports, both at the college and the professional level, particularly in football, for some time now, with some pretty big, high-profile instances of situations like this. So hopefully, he's able to go and, if it turns out that this is accurate reporting, which based on it being Nathan King, he's pretty legitimate. We definitely trust him. You hope that this is a mistake that he does not make again in the future, similar to the DJ Barber situation. It's just unfortunate that you have to go through with this at all. But yeah, I mean, I'm just like we said, if you're Auburn, this is not the look that you want for your program. This is not a team that needs distractions going into the season, because we know what all is on the line. And I know he's a special talent, and that goes a long way. But this kind of thing is absolutely inexcusable. And I hope that Auburn acts swiftly and they do their due diligence. And based on their findings, they bring down a little bit of justice on him. So, unfortunate situation there for Malcolm Simmons. Hope that he's able to correct this, and this isn't a situation we're talking about with him ever again in the future. But certainly bad news if you are an Auburn Tiger heading into day 4 of SEC Media Days. And again, it's just it's unfortunate, Damien, because I feel like when Auburn and Hugh Freeze and that contingent were here, again, I'm not saying you got anything earth-shattering, but you had that confidence, and you heard Hugh Freeze talking about, they're embracing the playoff conversation. They expect to be in that conversation, and he knows what's on the line this year, and he feels like you put all of this forward, and they put all this work into it. But it's it's unfortunate that you could have kind of all this momentum going into the season. Everyone's really excited, and then you have to deal with instances like this, and hopefully it all gets taken care of quickly. And again, we'll see how it ultimately plays out, but not a good look for Auburn as it stands early on this morning. But we do have some media things to get to as well. We got to hear from Kalen DeBoer yesterday in the Alabama contingent. We had Florida, Oklahoma, Mississippi State here as well. What were some of the takeaways? I know a lot of people seem to think that Kalen DeBoer maybe was a little more open than we've seen him in the past, a little more comfortable maybe would be a better term. So we'll dive into some of that. I want to get some of your takeaways as well, Damon, what you thought from Alabama, since you're, I guess based on yesterday, you're a bigger Alabama fan than me now. And I also will so have you done your voting yet for Media Days? Have you done your ballot?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, I did mine yesterday. And so I will. I'll share mine later in the show because it will be unveiled tomorrow in terms of what the ultimate media consensus is. But I did mine yesterday, and I actually took some time and really tried to feel it out and not just go with my gut, but actually do a little diving into some numbers and things like that. So. We'll get into all of that, though. What our takeaways were from Media Days. We'll go ahead and preview Day 4 for you as well and get into some of the media voting and how we think all of that will play out. Because you're listening to the Thursday morning edition of Morning Jocks. We're live here for one more day, College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia. Hello. And welcome into Morning Jocks. Feel like the Matt McLaren show.
I like what you did there. I like what you did there.
That's that'll be a little nugget for any of the old Matt McLaren show fans there. But no, welcome back into Morning Jocks. We're here, College Football Hall of Fame, for the final day of SEC Media Days. If you missed it earlier, you're going to have Missouri, Kentucky, Arkansas, and Texas A&M. Those are the 4 teams that you will have wrapping things up for us here from Atlanta. We also had to break some unfortunate news last night from Auburn involving wide receiver Malcolm Simmons, who was arrested for a domestic violence charge. And hopefully we will get some more clarification on that throughout the day today. And we'll see. I would imagine Auburn will have some sort of statement at some point later on today. So we'll keep you up to date on all of that stuff here on JOX. And some people already chiming in on the JOX text line. For example, this one comes in. Conrad, your double standards are crazy. Jermaine Burton literally hit a girl in the face on camera after the Tennessee game and had 0 repercussions. Yet you're calling for Auburn to come down swiftly and firmly. Not saying what he did is excusable in the slightest, but come on, man, you can't always have your Bama blinders on. Oh, I forgot that I'm the person that's responsible for punishing Jermaine Burton for what he did those few years ago. Like,
what? What?
If you remember, we talked about that on the radio, and we all said that we thought that was wrong, and we did not agree with what he did, and we all thought that he should face some sort of repercussion for that. So I don't know why him not getting in trouble. That has nothing to do with me or anybody else. I'm pretty sure I'm not part of law enforcement. I'm not part of the staff there at Alabama that can enforce any of these things. I would have the exact same feeling if this was any Alabama player that did the same thing, because this is absolutely inexcusable. You should never lay your hand. I can very confidently say this right now. You should never, for any reason, lay your hands on a female, for any reason whatsoever. And if you do, I'm sorry, but in my opinion, you are a bad person, and you deserve to have the full extent of the law thrown at you. That is 100% how I feel about that. If you disagree with that, feel free to let me know, but you're probably not the kind of person that I would ever want to associate if you don't agree with what I just said there. So I don't know how Jermaine Burton not getting in trouble for something years ago has anything to do with me saying that, what Malcolm Simmons did is despicable, and Auburn should punish him for that. But that's neither here nor there, I suppose. So we're getting things started hot here this morning, apparently. But that was unfortunately the sad news that came out of Auburn last night. And again, as I said, we will share any updates we have with you as the day goes on. But let's get back to the media days, Damian, because that is where we are here in Atlanta, Georgia. And so yesterday was Alabama Day, and we got to hear from Kalen DeBoer. He was on with McElroy and Kublik in the morning. He spoke at the podium. He did Q&A with the media. We also had the players going around. We got to have Tim Keenan on three-man front. Hope y'all were able to enjoy those interviews that we had for y'all yesterday. But I just quickly, before we hear from Kalen DeBoer, I want to see if you agree with this, Damian, because I felt like yesterday there was a level of comfortability from Kalen DeBoer that first off, he didn't have last year at Media Days, but second off, maybe I haven't really seen from him up to this point, and I think maybe part of it is too, you have to remember last year at Media Days, right? It's his first year. He's taking over for Nick Saban. He's up there at the podium. And what are you doing if you're Kalen DeBoer, right? You're up there at the podium, and the way that it's set up, you're looking at the back of the room. And who's at the back of the room? The SEC Network set. And who's sitting there? The guy that you're replacing in Nick Saban, right? And he was, let's be honest, he kind of stole the show last year, did he not? Like, that was kind of the big takeaway for a lot of people from Media Days, was how good Nick Saban was as a member of the media. And so, you have to imagine that's probably a difficult spot to be in if you're Kalen DeBoer. And so I think this year, not only with Nick Saban not being a part of Media Days, but also just being in year 2 maybe feeling like I think it comes off that he has the feeling that this is truly his team and his program now, and I don't know if you totally got that sense last year. So he just seemed more comfortable and more confident in his position as the head coach of Alabama football. I don't know if you got a similar feeling from listening to him and seeing him yesterday.
Yeah, he had to sell it last year. Like, he had to, because he's coming into a new situation, a new environment. He was doing more of, proving why he got the job, where now this year he can look back at 2024 and say, hey, you know what? Transition is new for everybody. Like, it was a completely different, feels, a different voice in the locker room, but I am the leader of this program. And I agree with you. Yesterday, it kind of felt like, okay, he has a grip on everything that's going on over there at Alabama. Like, it's not a question mark of, is it his roster? Is it his team? No, these guys are bought in. So now he's kind of like, all right, this is where we need to improve on. This is where, we had some slip ups last year, but this year I agree with you. Like, he feels comfortable. And again, like, to your point, Nick Saban was, in the back of the room, and it's like, wow, it's a little different than, the Pac-12 media days. It's a little different out here. But I do think that what we heard from him yesterday was was a little bit of I think that the ship is everybody's going in the right direction, where, last year kind of felt, there was, quote-unquote, some Saban guys that wanted to be coached by Coach Saban. And, Kalen DeBoer is not Nick Saban. He doesn't have to be Nick Saban. He is Kalen DeBoer, and I think he's comfortable with his identity and, the pieces that he's added going into this 2025 season, that he's like, okay, I know what the standard is. We didn't live up to it. But by God, in 2025, it's a get-right season. It's a get-right situation.
Yeah, and so one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show here, I know we have some callers that, maybe disagree on what the definition of this is, but one of the things we talk about, right, is the Bama standard and what that looked like under Nick Saban. And, we knew what that meant under Nick Saban. I feel like that is one of the things that carries over within a program, in my opinion. Maybe it's specific to Alabama for some of you, but the Bama standard, I did not look at that as something that once Nick Saban retired and handed the baton to Kalen DeBoer, that went away. And so yesterday when Kalen DeBoer was at the podium, he got asked if he felt that his first season in Tuscaloosa met the Bama standard.
We fell short of making the playoffs, as simple as that, right? And giving yourself a chance to go compete for a championship. I think there's a lot of things that I'm super proud of that are happening within the program that are part of the progression. We want it right now too. We fell short. Our guys, again, I'm proud of them and the way they've responded to, us, not realizing the goals that we, set out to have and getting back just to work and focusing on the main thing. I feel that's always been the case, but sometimes there's just ups and downs you got to go through, unfortunately, that we had to experience. But in the end, we're going to take advantage of the failures we've had and be better because of it.
And I think you pair that with something else that he had said while he was up there. I think he actually said in his opening statement, but essentially, we weren't good enough in the big moments. We weren't good enough, at the end of certain games. And again, these are all things that he is saying the right things, right? I think we can all agree. You're saying the right things. You're saying the things that a fan base wants to hear, but we all know it's going to come down to the actual execution. And if those things change going into year two as opposed to year one. But I certainly think yesterday you had a situation where Kalen DeBoer was saying a lot of the right things. We weren't good enough last year. We understand that. We have to be better. And so we will ultimately see. But I can tell you one thing from, just being around other members of the media and, people, go, oh, yeah, you're the Alabama guy, whatever it is, what it is. But a lot of people that I've talked to are relatively high on Alabama. And so I'm not going to be surprised if when the voting comes out tomorrow, ultimately. I still think you're going to have Texas and Georgia as 1 or 2, but if Alabama somehow slides into that number 2 spot, I'm not going to be absolutely flabbergasted, because I think that they have really picked a lot of momentum here. And again, you're saying the right things. We just, you got 44 days now before you hit the field against Florida State, and you've got to, put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I've said it, openly that I think Alabama does win the SEC. this year, because I do think they have their swagger back. I think
Yeah.
it's a new level of confidence. Even when you heard some clips and saw some things trending yesterday, a couple of the players that heard what Thomas Castellanos said, and they were like, the disrespect will be handled accordingly. Like, that's a gangsta bar. That felt like a Jay-Z verse. Like, it felt like, okay, this team knows exactly what's at stake and where their heads are at going into week one against Thomas Castellanos and those Florida State Seminoles. So I think that for Alabama, and you look at the pieces that they have coming back, it's hard not to feel optimistic. But I do think, quarterback is a question because, again, there's a reason why we haven't seen a lot of Ty Simpson. But I do think with him, this is year 4 in the system. He's had 2 with Coach Saban. Now he's got 2 with Kalen DeBoer. And this, the talent that they have with Keelan Russell coming in as a freshman, Austin Mack, and you hear all the things that, just when during the spring, when all the coaches are saying, like, he's made some wonderful strides. So I think the pieces around the quarterback that they have offensively, it makes me feel pretty confident that, you're pretty good. If you arguably have the best receiver, you can have an argument with Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams, but you got Ryan Williams out there. Also, you got a guy in Jeremy Bernard who's been with Kalen DeBoer the whole ride. Mm-hmm. It's hard not to feel confident. And then some of the guys that you have defensively are key guys that said, no, we're going to come back and we're building this thing because we failed last year and we got to get that taste out of our mouth because we are here to compete and win championships. So it's hard for me to not feel confident about what this Alabama team could look like. It's just when I look at the question marks for other teams like a Georgia or, I don't have as many questions on Texas, but it doesn't really feel like they're daunting or massive, massive question marks, and similar to what Alabama is in 2025 as well.
So tell me if you agree with this. I believe it was Jordan Rogers. I can't remember what show it was on this week, but I heard him, and he said essentially, if Arch Manning wasn't a thing, right? Or if Arch Manning was, he was still the Texas quarterback, but, he had a different last name, right? He wasn't a Manning. That Ty Simpson would be potentially the biggest story of SEC media days in terms of how important he is for Alabama and if they can get back to winning a national championship, or, really just get back to making the playoff is what I think most of the fans are looking for this year. But I thought that was interesting because I hadn't really thought about that because, there are a lot of great quarterbacks in the SEC. I think we all understand that. There's a lot of really good young talent here, but it was just kind of interesting to hear from his perspective of like, if this Arch Manning thing, which we all know, he's going to grab all the headlines, but, if Arch Manning wasn't the Texas quarterback, and let's say it was Quinn Ewers again this year, that Ty Simpson would probably be the biggest thing everyone was talking about because outside of maybe you can go, with some depth questions, but if we're just looking at the way that Alabama is going to line up against Florida State in 44 days, I really don't have any questions about that team right now outside of the quarterback position. Like everything else, I feel like they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, and it's because at least, and I kind of look at, Georgia's in that same boat too with Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah.
But we've seen Gunnar Stockton play in big moments, and that's because of
and beat Arch Manning. Well, not Arch Manning, but Quinn Ewers. Yeah.
Right. So we've seen what he can do as opposed to Ty Simpson. We've only seen him mostly in kind of, garbage time. We saw him 2 years ago against South Florida, mm-hmm. but that whole game was just nasty. Like that whole situation was just rough. But I think that because of where the expectations are and how we assume that Alabama is supposed to be, I would say if Arch Manning wasn't there at Texas and he didn't, have the pedigree that he has, that Ty Simpson would definitely probably be the topic of conversation, and also with him not being there for media days as well because of the fact that he's presumed the starter, but he hasn't truly been named the starter because, Coach DeBoer even yesterday was iterating that if we had a game today, he would take the first team reps and kind of just left it at that. Not necessarily saying that he's our definitive starter, he's our guy, but if we had a game that kicked off tomorrow, he would get the first reps as the starter.
And I don't think that should be a big surprise to anybody because as he kind of noted, nothing's really changed since the end of spring. Obviously they're still working out, they're going and throwing and doing things like that, but if that were to change, I think we all know that it would be sometime in fall camp. So that was the Alabama day yesterday. A lot of attention there for the Crimson Tide, as you would expect. Oh, quickly, did you did you see the video yesterday of Cam Ward and Castellanos?
Yeah, you see that energy changed
Uh-huh.
when you lay eyes on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so for anybody that missed it, we can't play it on the air because there's a lot of not safe for work language in there. But if you want to go and find it, you can. There's a video of Cam Ward, Thomas Castellanos, and Isaiah Horton, and is it Xavier Restrepo? Right, that was the other guy. Who's a former Miami receiver, and they were all, kind of working out, whatever, at some football field, and yeah, Thomas Castellanos had basically, backed off and said, "Yeah, I don't really believe that stuff. I was just trying to motivate my team because they only won 2 games last year, so they need all the help that they can get right now." So yeah, it's kind of funny how different he was when he was faced with Isaiah Horton and said, "Yeah, you know what, maybe gotta back down from that."
Yeah,
statement."
that temperature dropped a little bit when he's like, "Oh yeah, you go to Alabama, right?" And Isaiah's like, "Okay, yeah, what was that you said?" Okay, yeah. Okay.
Just a little bit different energy there in that one. So yeah, go go look that up on social media if you're interested. It's pretty entertaining there. But we continue here live from Digital Drive at the College Football Hall of Fame, Day 4 of SEC Media Days. And one of the big topics coming into this week, Damian, was, of course, the conference schedule. We're going to go to 9 games from 8 games. That seems to be a big thing when it comes to the college football playoff as well. The Big Ten wants the SEC to move to 9 before they're willing to budge on the playoff format. And Greg Sankey, Commissioner Sankey, was on the SEC Network yesterday. We'll tell you what he said and his thoughts on if we should move to a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC, and if he thinks it'll happen. That's coming up next on Morning JOX. Oh, story time from here in Atlanta, Georgia. Man, if we could air our breaks, we would be millionaires.
We really
we would probably be fired. But if we didn't get fired, we would be millionaires. But appreciate you joining us here on the Thursday morning edition of Morning JOX, 6:36. I'll get it right. Well, tomorrow it won't matter because I'll be back in Birmingham. But 6:36 there on your Thursday morning. Appreciate you making us a part of your day here on JOX. McElroy and Kublik in the morning, of course, coming up from 7 to 10. Cole going to be here on site at SEC Media Days Day 4. Then you're going to have 3-man front from 10 to 2. Pat Landrum and Molly going to be back there in the JOX studio in Birmingham. I'll be packing up things here, headed back home. So I won't be on 3-man front today, but I will be back with them tomorrow. And we've been recapping a little bit of what you got from Alabama yesterday, maybe a little more comfortable version of Kalen DeBoer, confident in what this team's going to be able to do this upcoming fall. We had to break the news, if you're just now joining us and you missed it last night, of Malcolm Simmons, the Auburn wide receiver who was arrested on domestic abuse charges. So we're looking to get more clarification on that story today, but certainly not a good sign of things there on the plane. So some sad news there, but we will keep you up to date, of course. But we did say, one of the big topics, I guess, coming into media days that we haven't really heard a whole lot about. We were hoping maybe in Greg Sankey's opening statement you'd get a little something, a little nugget here or there about which direction this was headed. But you got a little bit of that yesterday because Greg Sankey was on the SEC Network, and of course I'm talking about the 9-game conference schedule for the SEC, because we know that's been a point of contention, not only within the conference but with other conferences. For example, the Big Ten and the Big 12 want the SEC to go to 9 conference games before they're willing to go to the 5-11 playoff format, because that's the way that they do things. Now, I think we all understand, right? The SEC is, in my opinion, and I think all of our opinions, the best conference in college athletics. And when you go and look at things like ESPN Analytics, who put out a ranking of the top 10 hardest schedules in college football for the upcoming season, guess how many of those 10 teams were from the SEC, Damian?
I'm going to say 9.
It would be 10.
All 10.
It's actually 11 because LSU was 11th. So the top 11 hardest schedules in college football, according to ESPN Analytics, are in the SEC. So I think we all kind of understand why things are the way that they are and why maybe they're not as willing to add that 9th conference game, just because of how brutal and how difficult the schedules already are. But this is Greg Sankey. This is his quote on the conference schedules that he shared on the SEC Network yesterday. He says, quote, "I think we should be working towards that. My life doesn't end if we don't. There's this absolutist notion that he's going to dictate what's going to happen. I think we should have an adult conversation. We should be able to make a decision. I think 9 games would promote great interest throughout the year, but it would be hard to coach. I've had candid conversations with coaches, and I've told them that." So Greg Sankey, yet again, letting it be known that, hey, he is in favor. He thinks we need to move to that 9th conference game, but he does understand that, he maybe has a little bit different perspective than a Hugh Freeze or a Kalen DeBoer or a Kirby Smart would have about it, as they're trying to look ahead and figure out, how they're going to end up in the college football playoff. And again, as we've said before, it all kind of goes back to the college football playoff committee, because if strength of schedule was a metric that I guess you felt got carried a little more weight in the room there with the committee, then I think you would go to that 9th conference game, right? Because if you play in the most difficult conference and you're going to have an opportunity for 9-3, or I mean, heaven forbid, let's say even an 8-4 team one year potentially make a college football playoff, I think the SEC would be fine moving to that model, right? I think they want to play bigger games, right? You want to play against power competition, but as we saw last year, the SEC wasn't rewarded for having such a difficult schedule. I mean, you had teams 11, 12, 13, or whatever, like the first 3 teams out were all SEC teams on top of the 3 that actually did get in, and you're sitting there and you're going, so you're saying that 6 of the top, 13 teams in the country are from the SEC, but somehow their strength of schedule isn't enough to boost an Alabama or an Ole Miss or South Carolina over an SMU or an Indiana. And I think that's where people just kind of scratch their heads of, okay, so you're ranking them this way, but then you're simultaneously saying, well, we think you're really good, but we really like those teams that have 10 wins over 9 wins, even if they have much easier schedules. So going to be interesting to see how this kind of progresses and what ultimately happens, whether it's something that we're going to start getting next year or in the near future, or if this is something that's kind of going to get kicked down the road. But I go back to, some of the things that the Commissioner Sankey did say in his opening address and when talking to the media, Damian, and he kind of made it known, like, I know everyone assumes that we're going to go to a 16-team college football playoff, but that's not necessarily guaranteed, right? Like, they would like to see that happen, but we're all just assuming that that's what's going to happen, and I think it is what's going to happen. But he kind of just trying to remind everybody, hey, all these things we're talking about, like, we don't have to do these things right now. We can do these things. Maybe we would prefer to do them right now, but we don't have to.
Right, and to your point, it's okay, what benefit does it cause the SEC? And kind of going back to the College Football Playoff Committee, okay, you're making us play an extra conference game, but then you're still going to screw us over when it's time, to put the best teams into the College Football Playoff. And if, all 16 teams are in the top 25 when it comes to strength of schedule, you can't deny the fact that, hey, they're going against the best of the best week after week after week, and some teams slip up every now and then. Like, again, we look at the SEC, we can say that, that Georgia, Texas, Alabama, let's say they're at the top tier.
Yeah.
But that middle tier, there's no big separation from anybody.
Yep.
From anybody. So it's, okay, well, Greg Sankey's like, okay, well, why would we add another one when y'all are already showing us that obviously the games that we do play anyway don't even mean anything because of, quote-unquote, the losses that we have, but it's also the product that we have because these teams are so great.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, and I get it. A lot of these things are, I guess it comes down to opinion, and of course we're going to have the opinion that the SEC is the superior conference, and that, strength of schedule should matter, maybe a little more for them, and certainly more for them and the Big Ten together, because I think we certainly all agree that those two conferences are on a different level than everybody else. But maybe some people would try to argue the Big Ten is better because they've won the last 2 national championships. But I think we all know that when it comes to the totality of the conference, top to bottom, the SEC really just doesn't have any equal, and they haven't for quite some time. So that's just a little bit of an update on one of the big topics here going around SEC Media Days that we are still looking for an answer to. But we have some of your texts coming in on the Courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450, if you want to weigh in on your thoughts on Media Days so far, what you learned from Alabama yesterday, what's going on there on the plains of Auburn this morning as well. We'd love to get your thoughts on that. But when we come back here, I'm going to share – I told you I would. I will share my SEC Media Days ballot, how I've ranked the teams, my predicted order of finish, and y'all can tell me how much you agree with me, Damian, or you can absolutely roast me and tell me how your ballot's going to be so much better when you vote it, and I'm just a big Alabama homer. But I did not pick Alabama first, but I will share my media ballot, and we'll read your text when we come back here on Morning Jocks. 6:48 here on your Thursday morning. Appreciate you making Morning Jocks a part of your day each and every day here. Appreciate all of you for all of your great interactions this week as we have been covering SEC Media Days live from the College Football Hall of Fame here in Atlanta. One more day to go as we wrap up with the likes of Arkansas, Kentucky, Missouri, Texas A&M. I believe you're going to get to hear in the always entertaining Eli Drinkwitz, certainly one of the more entertaining coaches here in the Southeastern Conference. I know he'll be joining Mac and Cube a little bit later this morning, as well as Mike Elko from Texas A&M. So very interested to hear from both of them. Missouri coming off of a couple of years of really good football, and now some question marks surrounding that program as they look to replace some key pieces like Brady Cook, Luther Burden, and others. And then you have the Texas A&M Aggies who, up until the final 3 weeks or so of the season last year, we were looking at them as a team that might be in Atlanta playing for their first SEC championship game. And then ultimately they go to Auburn. We all remember how that one goes. You have a tough one against Texas in the final game of the season. And for Texas A&M, the year kind of ended not the way that it had started for them, certainly. So going to be exciting to hear from them as well. But I did tell you that I would unveil quickly my media ballot because we all get to vote on our predicted order of finish, our all SEC preseason teams, all of that good stuff. So I'm just going to go through. This was my predicted order of finish for the SEC, Damien. And I want you to tell me what you think I got right, what you think I got wrong. All right, we'll start from the bottom here. So I went last place. I went Mississippi State. 15th, I went Kentucky. 14th, Arkansas. 13, Vanderbilt. Number 12, Missouri. Number 11, Texas A&M. Number 10, Tennessee. Number 9, Oklahoma. Number 8, Auburn. Number 7, Florida. 6, South Carolina. 5, Ole Miss. 4, LSU. 3, Georgia. And then I had Alabama second and Texas first. So that's my projected order of finish. That's how I voted for the SEC media voting. I had Texas 1, Alabama 2, Georgia 3, LSU 4. That was my top 4. And yes, Damien, I did pick Alabama to win the SEC championship game.
Okay. The only
Tell me what you disagree with. That was
Arkansas.
That was one of those.
Arkansas. I don't understand why you hate Arkansas so much, man. It bothers me to my soul, man.
It's not, I don't hate it.
Yes, you do. Your voting has shown that you hate Arkansas. You think they stink. They're going to suck this year, and it hurts, man. It hurts.
Please. So what, are you going to have them in your top 10?
I mean, possibly.
Yeah, no.
Possibly. There's some things that could happen. But also, Oklahoma. You had Oklahoma at 8?
I had them at 9.
9.
I had them. I had Auburn 8, Oklahoma 9, Tennessee 10.
So did you already do your SEC predicted order of finish before or after you met John Mateer?
I did it after.
And you put Oklahoma at 9. So how can he win the Heisman as the ninth best team in the SEC?
I had never predicted him to win the Heisman.
Wow, now see, you're backtracking. You're backtracking,
that was
man.
You.
I can't stand it. I thought we were in this together.
I think I gave him SEC Offensive Player of the Year at one point.
If he wins SEC Offensive Player of the Year, there's no way Oklahoma is the ninth best team in the league.
I would agree with that.
Oh,
that was also when we were doing our hot takes, Damien. Those were like our spicy preseason SEC hot takes. But I think Oklahoma at 9. I think that's fair. It's the schedule, man.
True.
The schedule. I do think they're going to be a good football team, but that schedule is tough.
It is. But I think your list is fine. It's just the only team that we would just agree to disagree on is Arkansas. I think Arkansas is a dark horse. It could be just, I love what I love what I see with Sam Pittman and just the way the team rallies around him, and I just have a bigger upside for Taylor Green. And I guess
I know you do.
Yeah, and it's like there's so much talent that's there that I feel as though like he's going to take that next step. You had Auburn at 7.
I had Auburn. I picked them 8th.
8th, okay.
I picked Auburn 8th.
That's reasonable. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Because
that'd be 8-4, 9-3.
Right, and that's kind of where I would look at Auburn being as well, because again, the upside it's definitely there. At least on paper, they should be able to compete, but on the field, we have to see it. We have to see it. So
no.
I think your list is fine. I don't think it's that bad off.
Well, we can compare it tomorrow when the full media ballot comes out and we see kind of what the consensus is from everyone here. But looking at the text line here real quick for a final couple of minutes, Nick, he chimes in from North Birmingham on the Courtesy GMC text line. Says, my top 5 teams, my prediction for the top 5 are Texas 1, Alabama 2, Georgia 3, Tennessee 4, and Auburn 5.
Sounds like somebody must be close to being a hypo disciple.
That would, that would certainly be something here. Let's see. Somebody says... I'm sorry we didn't have time to get to this today, but someone did text me and said, man, Shane Gillis was ruthless last night at the ESPYs.
Oh, my gosh.
Shane Gillis last night, that is one of the funniest things I've seen, his monologue and just all when he convinced the crowd that his friend was a WNBA superstar and got them to cheer for her and said, yeah, see, I got you because none of you know any NBA. That I was peeing myself. Like, it was so funny. But, yeah, he was fantastic last night. If you missed it, and you have a good sense of humor, definitely go find some of those cuts on social media. It was awesome. Let's see. Luke here, he chimes in on the text line. He says, which SEC team playing a P4 opponent in the first week is most likely to lose? Auburn at Baylor, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, FSU, LSU, Clemson. I'm going to go – I still think LSU. I think Clemson's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
I think
100%.
them and Texas are the easy picks there. Someone chimes in. Ty Simpson should have played in the bowl game versus Michigan instead of Milroe. Well,
yeah, can't go backwards.
But then we wouldn't have more reasons to be mad at Jalen Milroe, and we all like to have those, right? Oh, man. Appreciate y'all chiming in this morning. Appreciate the interaction. Sorry we don't have time to get through all of the texts, but it's been a great week. We'll be back tomorrow from Birmingham, but right now we hand you off to McElroy and Kubelik in the morning.